There are a few people in Washington, D.C. that I trust and tell the truth. There are a few people that call me every time they turn on a water faucet from Washington, D.C. And they say, I just want you to know I'm holding a press conference today because I turned on a water faucet. You're like, oh. And after a while, I don't take those people's phone calls, and after a while, I stop reading their emails. And there are a few people that are in it for the wrong reasons. And then there are a few people, Jim DeMint is one of them, Michele Bachmann is one of them, Mike Lee is one of them, that do it for the right reasons and are clean. I mean, we were talking about this with Jim DeMint the other day. Look what Jim DeMint has done. Jim DeMint just stopped the law of the sea treaty. I mean, that's a pretty amazing thing to do. You can't take Jim DeMint out because he's clean. Does he make mistakes from time to time? Sure, everybody does. But look at what this guy has done. Michele Bachmann is the same way. She's a good, decent person. May not agree with her all the time, but she's a good, decent woman. And she is standing, and she's on the Intelligence Committee. Rarely do I get calls from Michele Bachmann, but when I do, they're always important. And she has called me a few times, and lately it's been about the Muslim Brotherhood because I've been talking to people in Washington, D.C. and saying, hey, what's the deal with the Muslim Brotherhood thing? Are we looking into this? Michele called me this morning, and she said, Glenn, there are decent people up on the Hill that are trying to expose the Muslim Brotherhood, and it is spreading. This disease is spreading so rapidly, it is breathtaking. This goes to a documentary that we did, about 3 months ago, where we exposed what this president is doing with the Muslim Brotherhood and how it is infiltrating all levels. And we're at a place now that if we don't stop it, we're approaching a point of no return. And they are purging everything from our military, from our FBI. So we're not even teaching what the Muslim Brotherhood stands for. We're not teaching what radical Islam even is. So how are you ever going to find it? How are you ever going to recognize it? It's out of control. The inspectors general were asked a few questions by a few members of Congress. Michele Bachmann is here to talk about it, and this is important. I beg you to listen because the elephant media and Drudge and Fox have come out on the wrong side on this issue. They are following John McCain's lead. It's the wrong lead. And if you're not there to back these people up, they're going to be eaten by CARE and the Muslim Brotherhood. Michele Bachmann, welcome to the program.
Glenn, thank you so much. What an important topic. And I have to say that you and the people at the Blaze have been leading the pack on this. And thank you for the wonderful documentary that you've done, because the influence today of the Muslim Brotherhood at the highest levels, from the White House to the Pentagon to the FBI, even to our United States military, truly is breathless, and people have to know about it.
Okay. So tell me what happened. You and who else wrote a letter to the Inspector General's office and said, there are some questions here that need to be addressed.
That's right. It was 3 members of the Intelligence Committee, myself, Lynn Westmoreland from Georgia, Tom Roney from Florida, and 2 members of the Judiciary Committee, Trent Franks of Arizona and Louis Gohmert of Texas, all signed on to a letter. We asked numerous questions of the federal government because a letter was sent. Well, let me just back up. After the Fort Hood tragedy, a report was issued that said the real problem in our government is that we are not teaching FBI agents or our military to recognize radical Islam. So that's what we need to do. We need to teach about it. Well, in response to that, over 50 Muslim organizations wrote a letter requesting that the White House start a task force to stop that from happening. 5 days after the White House got this letter, this October 19th letter, and people can see it on my website, or maybe you have it on the Blaze, 5 days after the White House got this letter from the 50 Muslim groups, they started the purge of the federal government. Let me tell you, the federal government doesn't do anything in 5 days, but they started the purge of the FBI. So now the FBI, who are supposed to be trained in radical Islam, elements have been purged out of their training materials, so they are no longer being taught about what radical Islam is in order to be able to truly identify it ahead of time. Now, this is serious. This is also happening throughout our United States military, Department of Justice, and Homeland Security. And the word purge isn't my word. That's the word used by the 50 Muslim organizations. They demanded that the president purge the training materials and the trainers. And so already people have been fired who formerly were teaching what radical Islam is. They've been fired or they've been reassigned, and they asked that the libraries be purged. Americans don't purge libraries, but they demanded that the FBI's library be purged. All of this is happening, and so we wrote a letter to the inspectors general asking the questions, don't you think you should look into the influence of the Muslim Brotherhood and what it is they're seeking to do?
Okay, so you write this, which is your job. And
our duty.
Your duty to protect and defend the United States from all enemies, foreign and domestic. There is no question in any sane person's mind that the Muslim Brotherhood, I mean, look at this guy who ran and won the presidency in Egypt. He says, oh, I'm a moderate. As soon as he wins, it's Sharia law. We're going down, death for Allah is our highest goal. It's all the same crap. So
and they call for Jerusalem to become Egypt's capital, not Israel's capital. They call for the demise of Israel and the demise of the United States. They believe in civilization jihad, which is to come into the United States and subvert the United States from within. I know this sounds like radical stuff, but all you have to do is look at the Muslim Brotherhood and who they say they are.
Yeah. Okay. So when you wrote this letter, then Keith Ellison comes out. And Keith Ellison is he has a record of being the mafia hitman.
Well, he has a long record of being associated with CARE and with the Muslim Brotherhood. CARE is an unindicted co-conspirator, as stated in the largest terrorist financing case that we've had in the United States of America. And so he came out and essentially wanted to shut down the inspectors general from even looking into any of the questions that we were asking. So he wanted to shut it down. In response, I wrote another letter back to Keith Ellison, a 16-page letter, which I would encourage all of your listeners to go and read this letter. It's what I call a bulletproof letter. I have 59 footnotes with one example after another of the penetration of the Muslim Brotherhood into the federal government. One of the most recent is so outrageous, it's hard to believe. 2 weeks ago, the State Department broke its own law, like I said, and let a foreign terrorist come into the United States, into the White House, meet with the National Security Council, and demand the release of the blind sheik. This is absolutely outrageous.
No, wait. There's more to this story that I think is even more outrageous. Not only did they break their own laws, give this guy a special waiver, bring him into the White House. This is a guy who is a known part of a known terrorist organization. He then campaigns to have the blind sheik release, but who pays for his airline ticket?
We do. The taxpayers. What I want to know is, did we upgrade him to first class? I mean, this is outrageous what has happened. And so then now what's happened is the attack machine has been turned on myself and the other members of Congress who have been asking the questions, that somehow we're the Muslim haters, we're the witch hunters, we're the new Joe McCarthyites, because we're asking these questions. All the while, 2 weeks ago, the Obama administration breaks federal law to bring someone that we list on the State Department as a terrorist organization, a member of that terrorist organization. We bring him in to the White House. You don't get any higher when it comes to intelligence secrets. You don't get any higher than the National Security Council. He sits down with the National Security Council in our White House and has the guts to demand that we released one of the worst, most violent terrorists that we have behind bars. He wants us to let him out of prison, to let him go free. The guy who was the mastermind of the 1993 World Trade Center bombing, the Blind Sheik.
Okay, so let's.
And you don't hear a peep about this.
No, of course not.